Hi everybody, another version of Our Town here in Florissant. I'm Mayor Schneider. Here with me today is Gary Meyer, our street superintendent, and Lou Jearls, our, what is it that you do again? Public Works Director.
There you
go. One thing that a lot of the audience probably doesn't know, because you don't know ancient history, but back in the mid-70s, I actually, for a short time, to fill in for an ailing Jim Bealston. When I was city engineer, I filled in down at the street department as a street superintendent for several months. And then when Joe Kiefer passed away, I was the acting public works director. So I know a little bit about the challenges that you guys have to deal with on a day-to-day basis. And then, of course, as a councilman for so long, appropriating money for you, and now as mayor for the last 4 years, I can really appreciate the challenges that you guys deal with. Today we're going to talk about mostly streets and bridges and things of that nature, and things that have to do with streets. So this is the nuts and bolts of the Public Works Department. There's a lot of elements to it. We'll save those subjects for another show. First of all, let's talk about, we just had a recent snowstorm, Lou and Gary. Let's talk about our procedures for, every storm is different, right?
Every storm's different.
Sure.
Go ahead,
Everything from a light snow to heavy snow or ice, they are all different. The amount of salt we use, amount of time spent, everything.
Pavement temperature, whether it's coming during rush hour traffic, just a lot of stuff.
So you guys are going to be tough guests for me today. I'm going to have to ask more questions.
We can elaborate,
so
so
let's talk about the last snowstorm that we just
Last
had.
one. Okay, go ahead, Gary.
Well, the most recent would have just been last night. Snow was predicted to come in between 3 and 5 in the morning, light snow. We ended up with about 1.5 inches, 2 inches. The guys came in at 4 in the morning, started salting to get it out before rush hour. And basically that was a light one. We salted one time, probably about 75 to 80 tons. Took care of it, melted it. So that's what you would call a fairly easy one.
Yeah, so far we've had about 12 events this year, and we're well over $200,000 on costs.
So let's talk about what when we have a snowstorm and we have a challenge. Our enemies are cold, extremely low temperatures, and no sun.
Correct.
Right. Well, and the other thing too is when it's going to hit and whether it's going to be rain or freezing rain right off the bat, because sometimes you like to pre-salt. Well, if it's going to rain, you can't pre-salt.
Right.
So you'll see county and state out doing the brine solution or salting. But if you can't, then there's a time window there where it can come down and just freeze. If the pavement temperature is cold enough, the biggest thing with ice and snow removal is to make sure you don't let it stick to the pavement. Don't let any ice get stuck to the pavement. So get your salt and calcium going real quick.
And this is one of those games, ladies and gentlemen, where it's good to have a bunch of rodeos under your belt.
Oh yeah. Well, I've been at it since '81. How you've been at it since when?
Well, I've been the street superintendent for 12 years now. So.
Okay. So yeah, we've got a lot of different scenarios.
Worked for the street department for 7 years prior to that. So.
Yeah.
So and then our friend, of course, is warmer temperatures and sun and the timing of the snowstorm.
Sure.
How many miles do we have to deal with?
We have 167 miles of streets. So if you're plowing, you might as well double that. You got to go up one side and down the other. So, now you've got to double that.
Yeah, if you're salting, you go down it once. Then when you're plowing, you're usually going slower, and you got to hit it twice.
How many trucks we got to deal with it?
We use 12. We have one spare. We haven't. Yeah. Nobody wants to use the spare. That truck's old and ready to go to the be traded in. But we have 12 that we use each time we go out.
And let's see. Let's talk about like the amount of salt we have to use.
Well, there again, that depends on the storm. Go ahead, Gary.
Well, we've had the 12 storms so far this year, and we've used about 1,700 tons of salt so far.
We'll use about 2,500
per. Yeah, the average we use is, I've got a 10-year average of 2,500 tons a year. Obviously, some years last year it was more. Some years it's a little lower, 1,500 tons. But 10-year average is 2,500 tons a year, and right now we're just about 1,700 we've used so far. So.
We've had many breakdowns this year.
A few, yeah, nothing real major.
We've been doing real good with equipment repairs. Yeah.
When we plow, it's a lot harder on the trucks, just harder on the engines, everything we use. The last storm when we plowed, we had a few breakdowns, not too major, but enough to where a few of the guys had to get in the spare truck, and that didn't make them too happy.
I think the one thing that we try to stay ahead of the game by having, if you compare our fleet to another community's fleet and so forth, obviously the newer your fleet, the least breakdowns you're going to have and the more efficient your removal is going to be, because you're not going to have trucks out of service.
Right.
But we have to balance that with what we can afford, and we've had kind of a policy of trying to replace one truck per year, I believe, Lou.
Right.
Because these trucks don't get a whole lot of miles on them, but they do get a lot of salt and brine and decay and rust, and it's just really very corrosive. Let's talk about what the challenges are with that.
Well, yeah, we've got one truck, 20 years old?
We have a few of the trucks are as old as 20 years old, and some that we just bought a year or two ago. So, yeah, I mean, the challenges, like you said,
and they're not cheap. They're, when you buy a 2.5-ton dump truck and then a spreader and a plow and frame, you're talking, what, 120,000?
130 on average, yeah. Lately, the newer trucks have been running about 130,000 for that.
And we're hoping to get between 12 and 15 years of life out of one of them. Sometimes they'll last a little longer, depending.
We hope not to keep them at 20 if we don't have to. But, some of those, like
15
I said,
if possible. Yeah.
That spare truck is the one that's one of
them. But when you started relating miles to trucks, that's one big advantage that Florissant has. We have how many trucks? 12.
12 and one spare.
12. So 12 routes. That divvies up 170 miles.
14 miles on average per truck, per driver. Per each truck driver has his own route, and on average they're 14 miles.
So you take St. Louis County or MoDOT, I mean, they're doing hundreds of miles with one truck, where we're, so we can get around the city faster and serve the people better.
It's one of the traditions in Florissant, one of the advantages of being a Florissant resident. Our tradition of excellent snow removal service goes all the way back to the Jim Egan days, and probably even prior to that. So we pride ourselves with our snow removal, and our goal is to continue that, delivering that level of service.
It's bare pavement policy. Yeah.
It's one of the reasons that we have a fleet that we try to maintain with an additional truck every year, and it's important. Now, the other thing that we have to deal with, and of course the equipment is handy for other purposes, like when we have to clean up after a windstorm or an ice storm. Let's talk about that challenge. That's a whole different game, but it's just as important.
Well, after a windstorm and tree limbs, so forth.
Tornado or a thunderstorm come through,
Yeah, we've got two large front-end loaders that we go around picking up the heavy debris with that. And so sometimes we'll take the spreaders off these smaller salt trucks, the 2.5-ton dumps, to go around and pick up the smaller debris plus pickup trucks. But yeah, that's a totally different challenge than you're going around with the large piles at the street. We have to pick up with the front end loader, load them on we have two large tandem dump trucks, 13 to 14 tons that they hold. And those are the two that we really make the use of, picking up the large debris and piles with.
So they get double duty.
Before we get into street repairs, though, let's talk just real quick, touch on material. We buy a certain amount of salt and calcium chloride, and we buy those in pretty big. We buy them by the barge, don't we?
Yeah, actually. There are some cities that get into a cooperative buying agreement, but we can buy at such a large quantity that we actually, this year, beat the price that MoDOT is having to buy salt for, and a lot of the other cities. North American Salt Company, give them a little plug, doing a great job. They took care of us last year, and they're doing a real good job taking care of us this year. But right after a storm, Gary will call up and say, hey, I need a restock, and they'll send over a couple trucks, 200-300 tons, and try and keep us. Same thing with calcium chloride. This year, I think we've used over 10,000 gallons of calcium chloride, and we get what? How big are our tanks? About 5,000?
We have two 5,000-gallon tanks down at the yard. So we usually have 10,000 on hand.
So we're doing real good there.
And just a little bit about the calcium chloride. We normally don't use it until it's below about 25 degrees. The salt will work pretty good down to that. You can still get by with salt in the low 20s, but especially when it gets into the teens, and we need to add calcium chloride. So, a lot of the storms this year we've had, like tonight's low is going down to 5 degrees. If we had snow or ice coming, we'd definitely be using the calcium chloride. And we add it to the salt at a rate of about 12 gallons per ton. So each time the trucks get loaded, they're 6 tons per truck. So.
And do we do anything different on the bridge surfaces?
No, we don't. We treat the bridges the same when the trucks go by, same material.
The bridge surface is different, though. I mean, we do put a chip and seal down rather than a slurry seal. It's a larger, grittier rock.
The pavement surface is different. Yeah.
Because that'll be the first thing to ice over, and so, but we haven't had any problems with that type of a combination.
If we get a specific call from the police department that bridges have iced over first, or sometimes there can be odd conditions, maybe a freezing fog, so forth, or something, we've had to salt just our bridges, but most of the time they're treated at the same time as the streets.
Okay. Well, let's get into bridges. Stay on the bridges just for just a second before we get into streets. Now, the bridge repair is mostly a challenge for the city engineer to evaluate and maybe get a contractor to do some kind of either a bridge replacement. Now, I know ever since I was city engineer, we've been replacing our bridges on a regular basis, mostly taking advantage of federal grants.
Well, you were very instrumental in our whole program. I guess back about 15, 20 years ago.
Even farther.
Even farther.
Yeah.
We started up a bridge inspection program right before federal funds became available. And with your help, we had our whole program mapped out. We were able to get grant funds for 2 or 3 bridges right off the bat, to the point where now we got to struggle to find a bridge that's bad enough to work on.
That's a good problem to have.
That's a good problem. Yeah.
But what about routine maintenance? There's very much, Gary, that your people do other than clear debris from under a bridge or something like that?
Well, as far as on the top, our guys we do crack sealing every year,
Okay.
and we're going around crack sealing on the list for the slurry seal or whatever. Like you said, Tim Barrett's in charge of the bridges, and he'll let me know ones that every so many years he'll have them re-chip sealed under the bridge.
They get inspected every 2 years.
So in between that, if they're getting cracked, when we're going out doing our crack sealing, we'll treat them with some crack seal or something like that.
Yeah.
Okay, then getting into our pavement challenges, we have how many miles? We already said how many miles we have. So
approximately 167. Yeah.
And we have we do some concrete work, we do some asphalt work, we do some slurry seal work. Just talk about that discussion a little bit.
Yeah, we do a full range. We'll do, like you say, the concrete pavement replacement work. We'll do asphalt overlays. We'll do mud jacking if need be. We tear up the base and redo base if pavement is falls apart underneath. We do the crack sealing. We do a lot of that before the slurry seal and resurfacing of our streets. And then we'll do chip and seal on bridge decks. So.
And we take advantage of the economy. There's outfits that have a lot more paving equipment than we do.
Right.
So we do contract out a majority of our street repair work. So let's talk about the different kinds of contracts that we let out for bid.
Okay. Well, yeah. For instance, this year we've got $1,650,000 budgeted. The council was real good giving us that money. And then we've also got money in our street crews. They can do probably close to $200,000 worth of street work, but there's no way they could do the 1.6 million. So we're in a pretty much a maintenance mode. We've got a lot of asphalt covered streets out there, and the best way to maintain those is we do a slurry seal resurfacing. But before we do that, we fix any base failures, fix any potholes, fill any large cracks. We get the vegetation out, and then clean the street before the slurry seal folks come in. So those streets get a pretty good once over. Now we've got a handful of streets that are they're old enough and they've got so many problems, drainage, cracks are widening up, too many potholes, surface is just unraveling, that we'll do grind it off, and then we'll do resurfacing on some of those. And then the streets that are just pure concrete, we've got about $725,000 allocated for work just on Portland cement concrete streets, where we'll just take the pavement out and put new one in.
Right. And then, of course, all year long we're doing patching of potholes and just spot repairs and stuff. And your crew's always doing that all year round, right, Gary?
Going to be real busy with that.
Yeah.
After the winter time.
After these recent snows, that with the freeze thaw cycle we've had recently, like I said, tonight's supposed to be in the single digits. Yesterday was in the 40s. We got moisture. There's going to be a lot of potholes to fix. So.
Right.
Yeah, but like I said, we do it year round, but after this moisture and this freeze thaw cycle we're having, there's going to be a lot of potholes.
And we do several different kinds of repairs. We do a temporary repair. In the wintertime, we put we do cold patch, and then in the summer we try to do a more permanent repair.
Right. Hot mix.
Hot mix, yeah. As soon as we can get out and get the hot mix going, we do that. You know, if there are real rotten areas, we grind it out. We have a skid steer bobcat with a grinding wheel that will go grind out the rotten area. But like you said, For now, it's cold mix, just like the highway department and the county and state use. It's a really good. They've really come a long way with that. It's a really good quality product mix that goes in there compared to the old stuff. And the guys, every one of the snowplow drivers has their route. They pair up in a pickup truck, and in between the snows, that's what they do. They load up and go around patching all those. So.
On the concrete slab replacement, I believe we removed the old concrete, and
Yes.
we have the contractor put the new pour the.
Well, no, we'll have the contractor.
We do the whole thing.
He'll do the whole thing, right?
Okay.
So he takes concrete out and we look at the base. It might need to be improved, and then he'll pour it all back. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then you post a guard there until it sets up.
So the kids don't put too many names in it. Yeah.
That used to be. Is that still a problem? It used to be a bigger problem than it is today.
It
Isn't
ain't
it?
too big of a problem, is it?
It's still, anytime, whether our guys are a contractor pour concrete, you're always going to have either a dog run through it or somebody
Bicycle.
right.
Well, I see.
You know, as long as somebody just puts the date in it or their little name, it's not too big a deal. But you find when you pour concrete, there's a lot of interesting things happening.
They're
out there.
just irresistible. You got to do something.
I've seen a lot of crazy things happen with poured concrete. Bicycles, people riding bicycles right through the ribbon we've got there and right into the slab.
Now let's talk about sidewalks for a minute. I know Tim Barrett is involved in that. We got a contractor that now we've kind of gotten smart, and we figured out that we could get a machine, as long as we control the dust, to grind down some of those uneven concrete sidewalk slabs to make them pedestrian friendly. They're not quite as attractive as a brand new sidewalk, but you see them everywhere. You see them in downtown Clayton.
Right.
You see them in New York City in front of St. Patrick's Cathedral. It's just part of, it's just a practical way to have a pedestrian surface.
Right. It's a lot quicker, easier, in most cases cheaper. You're not messing up the tree lawn area. You're not messing up the yards. And the main thing is to get rid of the trip hazard.
Right.
And once and when 90% of the slab is still good, it just makes no sense to tear the whole slab out. And a lot of times you got to tear one or two of them out. And so rather than tear 2 or 3 slabs out, you just grind off that edge.
Right.
You know, and that makes a lot of sense.
That saved us quite a bit of time and effort and money.
Right. Right.
So we're happy to be doing that. But that what made that possible was the collection of the dust that the grinding created.
Yeah, and it takes a little expertise. I mean,
Right.
these guys, they got to practice. I've seen some lousy grind jobs, but yeah, they're getting good at it now.
But we do most of our own concrete slab replacement in-house. Is that right?
We do a certain amount in-house. Whenever the contractor can't get to, we usually end up with special projects.
Yeah.
That we might have to have a French drain put in or something, and
Right.
we've got a special project that needs to get done in front of somebody's house or at the corner, something like that.
Then does Public Works get involved occasionally in doing something like that the Park Department's not equipped to do?
Oh, all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, part of our job is maintaining. We do a lot of the resurfacing in the parks, the parking lots, sidewalk program that Tim handles. We get up around the convention center or the civic centers, and we take care of those, the pool areas. So yeah, we work with the Parks Department pretty well.
Of course, the Park Department works with you too. Is like when we have a snowstorm, they do the parking lot.
Correct.
That's the first thing
Yep.
that they do.
Yep.
Is get the police parking lot cleared off. That's the number one
They do a great
priority.
job
And then
taking care of the
they go to
facilities.
City Hall and they do some
Yeah.
of the government center here and then the parking lots. So that takes the pressure off of the Public Works Department.
Yeah, it's a little bit different type of salting. They do a
Right.
great job. Yeah.
Any other remarks about the challenges that you guys like to address? Maybe that we haven't covered.
Well, I know one thing this year that played a big role in picking our streets is federal requirement. Whenever you do major improvements, that you do ADA improvements to the sidewalk areas.
Right.
And so this year we actually had to do over $110,000 worth of ADA sidewalk improvements. So that took a little bit of a bite out of, our street contracts. But hey, we've got a lot of folks here in town, and they're mobile, and
Right.
we want to keep them mobile.
Well, we have people in their motorized conveyances.
Right.
They have lost the ability to walk around either totally or they can walk short distances only.
Mm-hmm.
But they still want to get out for the fresh air. They maybe even want to go shopping or whatever. And So it's you know, our country tries to give equal opportunity to everybody, and if you have
Absolutely.
You know, physical challenges, we try to remove those barriers. We got the elevator in Egan Center and City Hall to give access to as much as we possibly can to every citizen, and including the sidewalks, so that if you have a motorized wheelchair, or even if somebody's assisting you, that you're able to negotiate from one place to another.
Get around, right. That's important. No, the only other thing is, like I said, we got $1.6 million worth of work, so there's going to be a lot of construction going on in the city this year. It's a good thing, but you know, it will disrupt traffic, so we just ask people to be patient and understanding.
I'd like to give kudos to the City Council. They've given us the resources that we need to maintain the city infrastructure in the fashion that we are. We're always trying to look outside the box for new technology, new materials to use. We feel that we're getting a lot of mileage out of the dollars that we spend to maintain our structures in our streets. And I commend you, Lou, for you know, staying up to date, doing your continuing education, finding out at these different engineering seminars what works, what doesn't work, sharing with your fellow municipal public works directors and county. I believe the counties and the municipal guys get together at the same time.
Yep.
And also we have our friends at the Engineers Club from all the different highway departments, because we have to interface with county and state,
Right.
all
these different
MSD,
utilities,
Ameren, all the utilities. And
So
of course,
it creates
Gary,
a good working relationship when you can.
why don't we talk about that before we end the show? Because I know, Gary, you always have to make sure that there's you don't want to dig and disturb a utility. I think we get pretty darn good cooperation from all the different companies.
Missouri One call, yeah, we call before we do sewer laterals several a week, and we call ahead of time on that. Any of the concrete, anything we dig, we call Missouri One call first.
We get, I believe that we're pretty much getting priority service from all the different agencies. I'd like to think that that was just automatic, but sometimes you just don't want to. I like to have that little bit of insurance by seeing these guys on a social basis every once in a while at the Engineers Club.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, thanks, guys, for taking the time to be my guest today, talk about street repairs, snow removals, and all the different challenges. This, the biggest challenge, I think, of the Public Works Department is to make sure that the infrastructure of our city is well maintained, and that our citizens can enjoy traveling around the city safely. And so thanks for being with me today.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you.
Until next show, we'll see you soon.